There we go.
Howdy, folks. I'm Russ Clarity, Charles' co-host. We're going to be doing the midday show, Scrolling with Charlie. This is season 4. No, season 1, episode 4. I knew I was going to get that wrong, so I had to look over at my little notes over here. Charles can't be here today, and also I'm going to be running the night show also. And my co-host today is going to be Mark Sherman. I'll let Mark introduce himself and tell us about what you ever want to tell us.
Hello, my name is Mark Sherman from Bellevue, Nebraska. I'm happy to be here today. Actually assisting Russell here, even though his name says Charles online here. But I don't know. I don't have much to say today, so.
Okay. How long you been scrolling?
I've been scrolling since the 90s. I scroll with that Excalibur 30-inch. Got that around Black Friday last year, so really happy with that saw. I do a little bit of everything. Lately, it's I'm working with Intarsia, so I'm happen to really like that again. It's been probably about 10 years or so since I've cut Intarsia items, so now I kind of started out with a big project. I have a 36-inch Eagle sitting on my desk behind me, so.
I saw the Eagle that you did. It looked fantastic.
Thank you. I usually try to start out small, but I gotta, I guess, go big or go home, right? So I went big with this one.
Yeah. And for those of you who are questioning, Charles had an engagement that he had to go to. He's not sick. There's nothing wrong with him. He was doing something this weekend, so he asked me to take over, and I guess that's what co-hosts are supposed to do. So here I am. Today we're going to be going over, I know last Saturday night we went over about the maintenance on their scroll saws, about how to take care of them and about the switch and the different things, and we talked a lot about that. But one thing that I noticed that we didn't really go over is the maintenance on the table. So that's the topic that I chose for the day. Now, this only applies to those of you who have like a cast iron table that's metal. I believe, Mark, you said yours is a coated table?
Yes, it's coated. Yep. So
this wouldn't apply to as far as sanding and stuff. Now, you can still put wax and stuff on that table to make it slipperier for the project that you're wanting to move around. So you can apply the wax to it. But we're going to talk specifically about those that have the DeWalt, the Delta, and there are other scroll saws that are out there that do have a cast iron table, and they will rust if you do not take care of them. You need some kind of coating or keep them clean, especially in a lot of people's shops that are not climate controlled. The humidity can be a problem, and they can actually cause rust on these tables if they're left for a while. So we're going to go over that, and that's the subject that I chose for today. And with that being said, I'm going to open up the Q&A so I can see if there's any questions in here. All right, I don't see any at this moment. If you have questions also on YouTube, Mark is monitoring YouTube for me. You can post on there if you're watching us on YouTube. If you have a question, post it in the comments section, and Mark will read it to me because I don't have time to do this and do that too. So he'll read it to me, and we'll try to answer the best we can. If you have any questions or comments, you can put them in the Q&A over there also. I'm trying to look at that. But with that being said, we're going to start off with I'm going to move my and I would like to show one thing before I go on. If those of you haven't noticed, I do have I have my own t-shirts now and my own stickers. So had to point that out, sorry. But you have a knob underneath here on the Delta, and I believe the DeWalt has the same thing. So I can basically, what you're going to do is just remove this knob. Just hope everything works right on live. Hope it don't just fall out on the floor.
Lose a little washer.
I won't lose a little washer. Actually, I did lose one down by. It fell. Wouldn't you know? It fell right down inside the vacuum tube. So now I'm going to take that sucker off after the show's over and get it out
into your astronaut bathroom.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. But you have the little knob, and you have a washer, and the little knob here has like it's look like a grommet, I want to say, that fits inside the groove, which I'll show you in just a moment. Let me set these over here out of the way. You should be able to, at this point, just lift up and pull this off. It's not rocket scientist here. So now I've got it laying in my lap. So what I would recommend if you get the saw brand new is this thing has the swirl patterns in it from being manufactured, being I guess a lathe, however they make it, but it has, and it is kind of rough. You can still see, even though I've sanded this really, really good, and it's very, very slick. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find something here.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah. I mean, you really can't lay anything up here on it. I mean, just a little bit of vibration. So I've got it really, really slick. But even though I've sanded and got it really, really slick, you can still see the machining swirls in it. I don't think you're going to want to get those all out. I don't think you can get them all out. But anyway, it might cause a problem with it being level anymore if you did that much sanding. But you want to sand it. What I did with mine is I took a random mortable. Now this is brand new. If you've never sanded it and just applied something to it, you're going to have to remove that. I would suggest that you would remove it with either alcohol or lacquer thinner. I used denatured alcohol on mine. You can use a lacquer thinner. Make sure you're in a well-ventilated area when you do this. But I took the random mortable sander, and I started out with like 100 grit, and I sanded the whole table really, really well. Then I moved up to like a 150. Then I moved up to a 220, and I think I took this all the way up to 320 or a little over 300. And then at the very finale, I had a friend of mine, my next door neighbor, does antique cars, and he gave me some like 13 micron, which is supposed to be like 3,000 grit or something. I mean, it's almost not like sandpaper. It's so slick or so smooth. And I went over it with that. And then after I'd sanded it real good, you want to sand it where it's really, really, really smooth. And like I said, once again, I can feel those grooves if I run my fingernail across it, but it's still very slick. And once I got that done, then I wanted to clean my table. Now, when I cleaned it was alcohol. I would suggest not using mineral spirits, like mineral spirits, but mineral spirits does leave an oily residue. So alcohol will not, lacquer thinner will not. There are some other things you can use. I would not use lacquer thinner unless there was something on here that I really needed to strip off. That you'd put something on it. I would just normally use alcohol. You can buy it at your Walmart or any of your pharmacies or whatever. Just make sure it is not the green kind or the mentholated or whatever you want to call it kind. Make sure it's the isopropyl rubbing alcohol. And clean it real good with that. Wipe it down. I would wipe it down several times after cleaning it with a rag, and you want to make sure that the rag comes off clean, that there's no more residue, any metal residue left on the table. Make sure that's good and clean. Then once you've got it clean, make sure you let it dry for a while. Alcohol doesn't take long to evaporate and dissipate. And then what you're going to do, and I'm fixing to, if anybody had noticed my voice change, I have it's that time of year down here in Florida, we have a lot of pollen in the air, and I've developed a sinus infection, so I feel myself fixing to cough. So if I do cough, I just want to apologize for that. But once you've got it clean and everything, then I use this Minwax paste finishing wax. You do not want to put an automotive type wax on this table. Automotive type waxes have a silicone base. The silicone has a chance to get off onto your project, and if you're going to stain it or any kind of finish you might use, you could have problems from using the automotive wax. Johnson makes a floor wax, I believe, that's out there. It's a paste wax. But you know, I didn't even think about it. Let me reach back here and find something. You got anything to say, Mark?
Not yet. I'm glad you mentioned that about your the silicone base because you probably mess up your work pretty bad. So
Yeah, it can. I have some Allen wrenches back here, and it's not the perfect thing, but it's the only thing I can. Well, that one's too big. Find to open this. I don't want to have to get up and go find a screwdriver or something. But it looks like that's what I'm going to have to do. Oh, I just happen to have one here. But this is a paste wax. And what I usually do.
You can see is a rubbing compound type thing.
No, it's not even. It's wax. I mean, it is just a paste form of wax. I use this on more than just then. As I was telling Mark earlier, I made some wooden drawers and wooden slides for them to slide in and out of, and I use this on the drawers and the drawers and the slides that were made of wood, and put a heavy coat of this on it. Didn't wipe it off, and left it. And now, man, actually my brad nailer, you can probably see it in some of the older videos. I'm sitting in front of the drawer, my brad nailer and my pin nailer in there, and when I pull it out, I have to be careful. I didn't put a stop on it. That thing will end up on the floor. It's so slick. So I just get a little rag. Now I can do this in front of you to show you how to do this. I'm not going to sand it because it got my table slick, and I don't want to start all over again. So, but you just get some on your rag, and it's just like polishing your car.
Now you've heard of people using like a bar of soap for their drawer glides and stuff. Do you think you could use a bar of soap on your table? Even though I probably wouldn't.
I wouldn't recommend it. No, I definitely wouldn't recommend it. If you'll see here, can you see in the camera this right here? Can you see it, Mark?
It's a little there. No, yeah, you can see a little bit. Yep.
My son was out here a while back and set his drink up on here on my table.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Most people do that on table saws quite often. They use it as workbench, and they lay something on there.
And I ripped his head off because it sit there for long enough to mess a little ring. So I'm almost tempted to take this thing and clean it and sand it, but it's so slick, even though the little ring there, and it bothers the crap out of me. As anybody, or I've told everybody before about my shop, I'm kind of anal retentive about it. So.
Yeah, we have a viewer, Jeffrey Super. He uses the same wax on his table and all his finished flat work. So. Yep,
you can use this on your table saw. You can use this on your band saw, even on your saw. Even though it's got a coated finish, you can wax it and it'll make it slicker.
I need to do that. I won't be able to keep my workspace on it because I have the angle pretty steep.
Yeah. Yeah, when I first do this, and I have my saw sitting at an angle, it's sitting, rather than flat, it's sitting like this. When I first do this, sometimes I have actually set a project up there to cut and turn around and it slid off of it. So, but you just apply a good coat, a generous coat. And then what you're going to do, I don't think we're going to have time. I don't think I can talk that much to. And actually, I'm seeing here, if you can see this on camera too, Mark.
Yeah, it looks like a little darker spot there.
Yeah, when I do the last few weeks that I've been sitting in front of the scroll saw, even with this wax on it, I lean my elbow up. This is the exact place where I lean my elbow on, and it's actually affecting the wax and the finish of the table.
Oh, so it probably picks up your oils in your skin a little bit.
Yep, yes it is. So this I definitely will probably strip and maybe even go over it with a light piece of sandpaper, because this is just bugging the crap out of me. Now I'm noticing this. Now I'll probably will strip it back down. Not going to do it today to bore everybody. But yeah, you just want to put a light coat of this wax on it. Now I would suggest I would do probably 2 or 3 coats, at least 2 or 3 coats on this table. You're going to let this dry. It's going to dry to a haze. It's really hard to see, in all sincerity. I would say give it, if you do this on a day when you're not worried about doing anything else and have anything else left to do, or anything to do on your scroll saw, and let it sit for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I mean, let it get good and dry, and then come over it, and just all you're going to do is just like car wax. You're going to come back and wipe it off, get rid of the haze. You can even wax, because this is cast metal too. I do wax this edge. The only reason being is because I don't want rust to form here. Now, I do not do the bottom, but I will wax this entire edge all the way. I don't sand it. It's rough, and I'm not going to sand that, but I do apply a coat of wax to the whole edge on this all the way around when I'm going through it, just to make sure that the edge doesn't rust, because you have to admit you're going to bump the end, especially down here, maybe not up this end on the end of the scroll saw, but you're going to bump or touch this end right here, and you can actually develop rust down here, and the wax will protect it. And you don't care if it turns, you're not going to be able to get all the wax out of it because this is really rough, but you don't care if it does, it's still protecting it. If you can't get it all back off, is my point. So you're just going to rub this down. I would wait 20-30 minutes, reapply a second coat and a third coat, maybe even a fourth coat if you want. And if you haven't done this to your saw and you do it, you're going to think, oh my God, because it will make, I mean, this, it will make this very, very slick to the point the rag even wants to kind of like fall off of it. If not, it will, you'll definitely get that. So I'd highly recommend any cast iron type table on your Craftsman. Your Craftsman steel encoded, you can still, any coated table you can apply this Minwax to. It won't hurt it at all. Guarantee it. It might you might have an allergic reaction to it if you're sensitive material, but it's not going to hurt your table. The Excalibur's, the Craftsman, any of those, this can be used on. And it has a lot of uses around the shop. I do, my bandsaw table has this on it. My table saw is aluminum. It's not cast metal, so but I still coat it with this same stuff. And any of the slides that I put on it, I coat it with this. So this is really good stuff. And let me tell you, I've had this can for I'd say 3 or 4 years, and I use it all the time. I haven't dented it yet. This will probably I'll get another 2 or 3 years out of this easy. So it's not expensive. I'm going to say it's less than $10 a can. It's what I would recommend. So
you tell people is like it's not only important to keep it clean like that as far as like preventing rust, but when you're doing scroll work, you'll notice that, you know, if you're spinning your work around or whatever, if it's not coated, it will catch. So, you know, and it probably will mess up your work. So just doing simple lines, it's probably more than beneficial.
Now I'm fighting this thing to try to put it back on because I messed up.
But some of the moves, when you're doing some 90-degree turns, sometimes people like to spin their work awfully fast, and this really helps quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to hope I can balance this thing because I don't feel like messing with it right now.
So not only for protecting against rust, but also it makes your work so much easier.
Yes, and you're right. You're very much right as far as when you're putting your work on there and sliding it around. For those of you who do the, well, I call it the spin technique, but actually what you're doing is pausing the blade and backing it up against the area that's not cut and swinging around. The scroll saw is one of the only, or I say one of the only that I know of, I've heard this mentioned before, that actually can turn the blade in its own kerf. The blade can turn around in its own kerf.
Sure.
It's small. So it will add a lot too when you're making that spin. You will notice, be careful it don't fly off the table on you. So that's it for the day. That's how I maintain my Delta. I plan on in the future to own an Excalibur. It's just not in my budget at the moment. I figure this thing works. I had an old Craftsman, 16-inch I believe it was, and I gave it to my granddaughter a while back, and she's loving it. It uses pinless blades. And I used it for years, and I waxed that table also. It had a painted, it was a steel table, but it was coated painted. But the Delta is serving me very well. I can see the benefits. I wanted to do some things that I could see that the when we're doing inlays or whatever, how that the the table of this will tilt, where in the Excalibur the actual blade tilts. I think would make an awesome improvement as far as doing inlays and even of your the compound cuttings we had talked about the other week. So do we? I guess we don't have any other questions.
No questions. We have 10 people watching, I believe, right now. So one thing with the coated table, the coat does wear off. So it'd still be beneficial on a coated table just to apply that rubbing compound or the wax. So you can't go wrong with it. Because I do notice that people like pin their work together as far as like they do in stack cuts. You still may get some pins popping through or some nails popping through, so you do scratch the table up a little bit. So it would be beneficial to coat your pre-coated table. So.
Yes, and you're correct, Mark. Due to the fact that even though that's a painted surface, paint just like your car, you wax your car, even though it's painted to keep the elements off of it. Well, your hand and your arms, your body produces oil, and they're very caustic in all sincerity. My father, I know this is a little bit out of the subject line, but used to rest his arm on his old pickup truck and owned that pickup truck for 30-something years. And it actually, on the old armrest, it was a 1953 Chevy pickup truck. Up where he rested his arm by the window, it actually started eating through. I mean, actually, the rust was eating through it. So your hands that are touching your painted table, your arm, anything that touches that painted table surface is going to have an effect on that finish. Same with the cast iron. So by keeping the wax on and keep it protected, you're going to extend the life of your table, whether it's finished, coated, or not. So that's a very good point you brought up there, Mark. I can't think of anything else. If anybody wants to, anything on YouTube?
Nothing on YouTube. Just my comment to go ahead and ask questions. So.
Okay. They don't like me as good as they do Charles. Sorry about the coughing, folks. Yeah, I developed a sinus infection here this week. And people say, well, it's because you run the shop around the dust. No, it's not. I get it about this time every year. I develop, and once you hit 50, your body goes to heck. Yeah, I've never had sinus problems, never had allergies in my entire life. And over the last few years, I've developed them. And then in March through April is our driest time, but everything is blooming and there's no rain to wash it out of the atmosphere. So during this time of the year, lo and behold, the last few years, I've been getting sinus infections. And that's one of the things the doctor told me, by the way. Stay out of the shop, because he knows I went to him a long time. He knows I do woodworking. He goes, you don't need to be around any dust. Stay out of the shop for a while.
That's not happening.
But yeah, I know. I'm out here now, but at least I ain't scrolling.
Well, we got a decent dust collection system like you do, so.
Yeah. But I won't be in here until probably next week now, until I get over the weekend. So, well, that's about all I can think of for the day. Hope you all like my shirt. If you want to get a little better look at my Santa Claus belly.
It's quite the advertising there, Russ.
That was the point. That was the point. So actually, I have to say kudos to a friend of mine. He has a t-shirt business, and I contacted him and asked him. I said, hey, what would it cost me to have a couple of shirts done? He says, you got the artwork? And I said, yeah. And he goes, email me the artwork. And I did. And he called me up and said, how many of these did you want? I said, only a couple to wear on the show so everybody will know who the heck I am. And lo and behold, he called me up and said, come get your shirts.
Need to have an evening color and a daytime noon color,
It was free, so I'm not complaining. But he gave me this cheap gray color. I think it's a not a really expensive t-shirt. I'm not going to mention his name so he don't watch the show. I can't hurt his feelings. It's not the most expensive t-shirt. So we'll be on tonight again at the same time. I think it's 7:30 Central time.
7:30 Central, yeah.
Yeah, I will. We're going to select a panel and do the same thing we did last week. We're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings by not having a full panel. We're trying to cut the show down to 1 hour. And plus, we've also found out that the more people that we have on, if we have a full panel, and plus Charles and I, it actually affects the bandwidth. So that can be an issue too. So we want to have anybody that wants to participate. We're not going to leave you out. Love having you on the panel. We want you to come back. We want you to watch. We don't want to lose anybody over the issue. It's just he and I feel that this is the best thing for the show. It'll cut it down because a lot of people are complaining about they can't stay up for 2 hours, and we get to gab and we're going to be here. So, and I miss my buddy Charles. Although Mark, you're doing a good job.
Good.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to call that for a day. And I'm not Charles, so I'm not going to use his line. Don't scroll naked. And what is it that he says? Scroll on. I got my own line, and mine is, y'all have a good day. God bless, and keep the blade on the line.